Button live. We're live here. It's Real Fridays. Every Friday, it's Real Fridays at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. There's three main cornerstones of this podcast. It's Rick Rock, myself, is more on the retail mortgage banking side of things, and Jeremy, who's what I've always said to be one of the best lawyers in the United States regarding advisory and support services on innovation, technology, mortgage lending, and just innovative stuff. Jeremy's all over it. And then there's Brock Cassidy, who's I think one of the strongest up and comers when it comes to NewZip. NewZip is a brand new company that I think he's carried on his back when it comes to putting them on the map nationwide. And again, I've said this before, Brock. Don't tell your owner that I've said this, but I'm going to say it publicly. I'm going to say it because you can't.
I like our team. Yeah,
I'm gonna. I like your team too, but I think you've done such an amazing job being available at conferences and speaking at conferences and being a voice for real estate and real estate tech. It's been great. And I decided I pulled in my son Ryan. Ryan is a junior at University of Georgia. He's that early 20 something, right? That we focus on in our demographics and our conversations around like what is home ownership going to look like in like 10, 15 years. If the average age, what's the average age of the average first time home buyer? 37?
36, I think.
37. Yeah. And it used to be 31, 32, 33. It used to be early 30s.
Yeah, as recently as like 10 years ago, it was like 31, 32. Now it's like 36, 37. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And so part of what's driving that is an affordability gap. And Ryan and I were talking about, I was like, tell me about your life down in Georgia, right? Tell me about your life. And he's a junior at University of Georgia, and like, how would you, like, would you say with all the different rises of the prices of things, are students feeling the pinch? Would you say? Are people talking about it? What are students saying about the rise of pricing or prices, or are they not feeling it?
Well, definitely. I want to say my go-to breakfast and eggs was definitely hit over the past few months. I don't know, man.
Where? It's
just at grocery stores. Eggs have been. I haven't been able to eat breakfast in a while just because of that. So, but in general.
Dude, I can send you some Venmo.
Hey, take him up on that. Whenever Dad offers Venmo, take it.
No, I definitely will. But when it comes to that, Georgia, I think, is pretty well priced relative to the rest of the United States. Because, I grew up in Minnesota for whatever, all throughout high school, all the way to, when I was 19. And I still have many friends that go to school up in Minnesota, go to schools in Wisconsin, and have visited me down in Georgia. And they're like everything is so especially apartments, because, we're not buying a house yet. We can barely afford, like I said, breakfast. So when it comes to apartments, it's a pretty big thing to, what are you getting in your commodity? Like, what does your community look like? What else are you getting in, instead of your, alongside your apartment? So what are you getting? A pool? Like, for me, I get a pool. There's a basketball court. There's a bunch of other things in our community that should increase the price, but compared to the North, it doesn't. And so, I've got friends that are paying more than double the price that I'm paying for less commodities, not as big of a space. And so, they're really feeling the price increases up there. And down south, I think it's just become a haven for a lot of people that, are maybe trying new things in business, or just don't have a lot of money. They can just, afford so much more, and they can get so much more out of it. So like my place, it offers way more than what most of my friends are up north, what my friends have up north.
So Minnesota, you're now getting used to Georgia. You're obviously sitting in New England right now.
I never get used to it, man. Don't everywhere. I've got places everywhere.
So do you think, like, from what you've experienced so far, that like you would want to stay in Georgia, Atlanta, and Athens, and places like that? Like, what's the vibe?
Yeah, no. So, I mean, especially now that I've kind of become like a fully fledged, taxed citizen of the United States, I did my taxes, all my stuff for the past 2 years. So I kind of get a taste of that, especially with the difference like Minnesota and Georgia taxes. Georgia's awesome. I mean, Atlanta's beautiful. The prices down there are also really affordable. You got and I was reading up about this a little bit recently, but especially after 2020, after the housing surge in 2020, Georgia really put a big emphasis on, apartments and, making affordable living and stuff like that, especially in the Atlanta area, because just so many people are migrating to Atlanta nowadays. And so, it's a beautiful place. They offer so many cool things. Like I said, prices are amazing. And especially after now talking to my parents who are still up in, like my mom who's still up in Minnesota, they're always talking about how property taxes are one of the worst things they have to deal with, especially when trying to figure out, a retirement home, or, now that I'm talking about like, oh, like these are all these like this is what my taxes look like now in Georgia. And then looking at their taxes, I work at a tax firm down south. And so I've kind of handled both mine and a little bit of my parents' is just a little bit. But it's crazy. Minnesota taxes are just insane. And like I said, like property taxes are one of the highest in the US. So for me, that money, it's obviously a big thing. And Georgia has provided me so much leeway and wiggle room when it comes to that type of stuff, especially because I don't make a lot of money. So not yet, at least. And so for the foreseeable future, Georgia is going to be my home.
Well, what I just brought up the GDP of growth around the country, and obviously, Georgia's right up there, right on the cusp. I'm actually surprised to see Minnesota at 2.9 as far as
you got Minneapolis.
But I think what it speaks to is the post-COVID, the post-pandemic rural flight, like the urban flight to rural spaces. And of course we saw that because rural Minnesota is actually pretty inexpensive. It's really the Twin Cities that are.
Hasn't that reversed quite a bit though in the last 2 years? Like during COVID, it was crazy, but now it's like all you hear about all the flight back to cities. I think,
and maybe that's why Minneapolis or Minnesota's at 2.9, or because this is really some of these things are hard to measure, but like most city rents are coming down a little bit still or flat, so it's like not crazy, but it's I've heard a little more flight back to the city after the last 2 years. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. What's interesting is Ryan's comment around just the explosion of the apartment communities, because that's not just for students, that's also becomes for the, as we just talked about, the first-time home buyers obviously being pushed up to 37, 38 years old because of affordability and lack of inventory and so on, and it probably job market related as well, and for to fill that vacuum or that void, because there's a lot of that not just millennial, but that Gen Z and then the Gen Alpha. There's a massive demographic shift as far as the population of those groups. And so we got to put them somewhere, except for, mom and dad's couch. We got to put them somewhere in an apartment or whatever. It's I don't know. What do the job prospects look like? People, looking for internships or jobs. How are they taking it, Ryan?
Well,
would you say like easy to get a job? Is it like?
For at least I can really only confidently speak about like business, since that's kind of what I'm studying and what I see most. But like how they get their jobs, it's just
no. Is there high demand? Are they having a hard time getting a job?
Oh, yeah. I would say it's a little different since I'm working to be an accountant. Accountants are kind of needed almost everywhere. So there's a pretty high demand for that, and it's pretty simple as long as you got good grades and you're not a dirtbag to get an internship at any firm. But I would say in general, it is kind of tough. I have a lot of friends that are just first time, coming out of their senior year, first time getting an internship. And it's just a competitive field. Down in Georgia, there are a lot of students down there that are also looking for the same thing. And not everybody can just go to Atlanta. And then when they look out of state, it's even harder. So it just really comes down to connections at that point. That's how I got my first internship, and that's at the tax firm that I work at currently. And that's it really, the hardest part is getting the first one, and it makes it easier is knowing who you know. It's no big surprise. So that's just kind of been that.
Right on.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm looking at the top 10 states. Here, I was going to show you guys this. The top 10 states where people are moving, and this is of no surprise to us as we've been watching this. But look at this. Well, Texas #1, right? Because it's a zero income tax state. Not sure what that is. I have to make And North Carolina is no surprise there. The quality of life there and the academic.
Beautiful.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
So amazing.
But South Carolina is amazing. Florida, Tennessee, Arizona. Tennessee is a no state income tax state. Florida is a no federal income tax state. South Carolina is moving in that direction. Texas is already there. Arizona, is there a state income tax? Is there a federal income tax for Arizona? Or is that no income tax?
Yeah, I think so.
Alabama, I think it's either Alabama or Mississippi that just went in that direction. Georgia, of course, Nevada is no income tax. Idaho and Oklahoma, and I think Oklahoma, Governor Stitt, former mortgage banker and chairman, or I think he's still on the board of Gateway Bank. He was moving the state in the direction of no federal income tax, or no state income tax, I should say. Yeah, sorry, I was saying the wrong thing. But just it's fascinating. I mean, so with all this influx into that state, lack of inventory, it's just driving obviously the demand for renters, and then it's just squeezing the affordability of those who really can't afford it, which is new college grads, coming out of college and trying to get a job and try to fit in the new apartment and that first apartment. How many people do you live with right now, Ryan?
I live with 3 other people. I mean, that's kind of like
is that pretty normal? Is it people go for 4 to 5?
No, you don't see a whole lot of 5. 4 is pretty much the standard, and obviously price increases as you go down. But I don't know. Like, sorry.
No, I didn't say.
I don't know. It just and this is a complete just observation from me and my friends and kind of the people that I'm around, and maybe this is completely skewed just because I am only 21. But housing. It just seems so unattractive, and it, to me and a bunch of my other friends, because it seems like you're putting in so much, and you're constantly, for every single year, you're putting in so much, whereas like you're putting in so much effort, you're putting in so much time and money to be able to make what is yours, and you own it, and there are just so many issues when it comes to actually owning something, versus when you're at an apartment, all you're doing is paying a lease. And you could probably I know you can be in like housing communities and whatnot, but then you're paying even more to be a part of that community, to be in the HSA or anything like that. But for apartments, you just pay the lease, you follow by the rules, and everything else is taken care of for you. They take care of maintenance and stuff like that. You don't got to really worry about property damage or anything like that.
Just all the stresses of home ownership.
So, yeah, you're just paying attention to your room. And
so
the
Jeremy,
roommates that you have, that's it.
So Jeremy, do you think that's just an age-related, younger 20-somethings perspective, or do you think that's going to be a longer-term trend around home ownership and how home ownership is redefined?
You're just serving up the softballs right down the middle of the plate here. I mean, I have long said it is going to be a trend because we've made it such a problem to get into home ownership. And Ryan just said it best. We only have 2 options. We rent or we get a 30-year fixed. The fact that those are the only 2 options in 2025 with all the data and technology and financial instruments that we have is kind of still crazy to me, because we're essentially saying it's an all or nothing market. You save up all your money to put it down on a house to have all of the debt be yours and all the responsibility yours. Now, sure, would a mortgage banker say, and you get that equity upside, that's all yours as well? Yeah, after 30 years. But the entry point is so much more friction and cost to your liquidity, to your everyday life, that we've now put it's going to be a generational problem. Because why would I? Look, you just put up 10 really cool states. Ryan may want to live in 5 of them in the next 10 years, right? It used to be you buy a house, you let it appreciate for a couple of years, sell it, move to the next market, buy another house, let it appreciate, and you could get in and out in a way that was a little bit more liquid relative to wages and cost of living. Yeah. And because those have evaporated, if I want any type of flexibility or I want any type of options, you work at a big 4 accounting firm, you'll actually bank quite a bit in terms of money and mileage and other perks, because you can be flexible. You may not want to get tied down in Atlanta or wherever, because Texas is an option, Florida is an option. Soon Detroit will be an option. Like, and you may want to try all those. So like, I just think we're looking at a fundamental shift, and those take time, and we just haven't admitted it. And by the way, I've stopped expecting mortgage people to admit it, because why would they? It's a 10-year shift. It's a 10-year trend.
And why would you not talk your own book when you have the chance? But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, even when I moved to Detroit in 2014, I bought a house year one there because it made sense. And maybe the math still works in Detroit, but there are not a lot of places like. It was. I saw a stat that for the first time, I think ever, or at least in a long time, all 50 of the top cities in the U.S. are cheaper to rent in than buy in. That almost seems obvious now, like probably to like current college students, like that seems like obviously it's cheaper to rent. It wasn't even 10 years ago, even when I was in college 10, 15 years ago, coming out of college, it was like not like that. There were half of the cities it was cheaper to buy.
So how old were you when you got your first house, your first mortgage, Brock?
Like 23.
Dude, that's amazing. So that's young.
It was in Detroit. It was.
So that was super smart though. But that's how you get. I mean, wealth is built through real estate. I mean, hands down.
I rent now because I live in New York City, so it's like it's like very much depends. In New York City, I would never buy right now.
Yeah. It's like, and Jeremy, how old were you when you got your first mortgage?
30.
Yeah, I was like 20. I was 27, 28. Same thing. I mean,
there's a lot of pressure when you work at a mortgage company. They're like, when are you getting your mortgage?
Yeah, I was I didn't think I bought fast enough. Yeah.
So that's really cool. Now, did you get your MBA too, Jeremy, or did you just go right to law school because you went to UConn Law, right?
UConn, go Huskies.
And did you do undergrad at UConn too?
No, I was down in DC, greater DC area of Fredericksburg, Virginia. I went to a liberal arts school down there. So I did live with 5 dudes in a house, in an apartment, and then we all moved to DC, and we just got a house, and there were 5 bedrooms, and it was a mess, and it was some of the best years of my life.
5 bedrooms, it's a huge house.
It was a house that was chopped up specifically for this use case. It was 5 of us, and the landlord made an extra bedroom, I think, out of the basement or something. But we made it work. It was great.
We got Lou chiming in. Anyone else in the comments?
We're always asking.
You did, yeah.
Lou was in early. Lou's been in early.
We got to see him a couple weeks ago at the main mortgage.
My first meeting in the mortgage industry was with Lou.
Amazing.
Was it really?
Yeah, he worked at Caddick at the time, and Phil DeFranzo, the founder and CEO of Norcom Mortgage, said, "Hey, I want you to go talk to the guys at Caddick. They'll help you." And that was my first external meeting after getting my first job.
So you owe Lou a tremendous amount of gratitude for your fame and success in the business.
That's what I tell him. Everything I learned in that one meeting from him. 100%.
That's great.
Smile says it all. Smile in the comments. Thanks, Lou. It's super helpful to me too.
Brock, right out of Bowdoin, you didn't go to grad school, right? You just went right into work.
Yeah.
He had a practical MBA with Venture for America. He got his
that's true.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. So I did I did this training program right after college. It was like 10 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. It was like 2 months right after college. It was like this intensive business training program, and got matched with the job. Ultimately, that was at Rocket. It was at a subsidiary of Rocket, but moved around once I got there. So I did like a job training and job placement thing right after college. Yeah.
They worked for the #1 lender in America, which at the time was #1, and ever since them leaving, Rocket lost their position. If you guys, I'm not saying there's necessarily a cause and effect, but however, it did happen that way.
They won't be #1 for about 5 more minutes based on the acquisitions, but.
Exactly. Well, UWM's got a lot up their sleeves. I did hear a rumor that actually Mr. Cooper went to UWM first, and UWM turned the deal down.
Oh,
and then they ended up going. So that was a little inside baseball that I heard.
That's a fun rumor. That's believable.
Yeah, that's interesting to know for sure.
Yeah.
I want to go back for a second though, because I went down this LinkedIn rabbit hole on Flow. Flow's a company that I had been waiting to learn more about. Probably its most famous characteristic, I would say, is it's Adam Newman's next startup. So Adam Newman comes back into the market with Flow. So that's probably like the headline. But I noticed on I noticed that a investor from the UK did like a nice write-up breaking down the company and what it's doing and what the valuation is and why and this and that. And I thought the write-up was really strong. And the comments were not surprisingly all about WeWork and Adam and not actually about the concept, which frustrated me. So I had to jump in with the concept. But it's essentially like more consistent property management across major cities so that you end up renting in a network similar to what I would describe. They don't describe it this way, but I describe it as Marriott Bonvoy for renting. So you find the building in that city that's under the Flow flag or under.
Dude, that's brilliant. No, it's like a timeshare.
And you accrue rewards and perks and amenities. And so Ryan was mentioning a second ago, I want the pool, I want the gym, I want some of these other things. Well, the next logical step is kind of, why don't I get reward points? Why don't I get cash back? Why can't I start earning some? So I just chimed in and was like, and also equity shares. Like we share equity from a startup with the talent, those who come in, as founders. Let's start getting some like shares in Flow you could earn by renting and actually create like a third option in between renting and owning where you're at least accruing something, even if it's not real estate equity. Maybe it's equity in a portfolio. Maybe it's equity.
Dude, I love that idea.
I just think there's so much opportunity.
Maybe it's just points that you can use on stuff.
Yeah, Built Rewards. Built Rewards has attached it to their MasterCard, right? So you got your Built Rewards points, paying your rent in your neighborhood, in your community. My friend John Lawless works there. Like, there's so much opportunity here, and everybody was kind of missing the forest for the trees, either because of the WeWork Adam, and it's easier to just criticize.
It's like one of the craziest business people of all time. You kind of got to mention it.
Or two, they're bound by these like notions of this is the only way we do it, or this is how we do it. And I just think it's about to really change because of what you asked earlier, Rick, because of where the market's going. We're going to see these more flexible options. We're going to see brand loyalty start to become a thing. And the mortgage industry, as you know, has very little brand loyalty at all, but from a consumer perspective.
Well, even thinking about Austin, Allison, when we had him on from Picasso a couple of weeks ago, it's like, okay, clearly they started mega luxury, pay $2 million for a quarter of an $8 million house. That's like that's an atypical kind of market, but that, I loved what he said. I didn't know this until he came on the show. I loved what he said about like, for what was it, $100, couple $100, we make our packet of how to do a house share available, of how to buy a house in a group and make the LLC correctly and split it up correctly. And if you want to I don't know if this is a different set of documents, but I'm assuming that there's also like, if you want to rent it out for the time you're not using it and things like that. So, and I had a friend that just visited New York City, who's thinking about moving here, who used something very similar to what it sounds like Flow might be. Jeremy, he used a platform called Kindred. Have you guys heard of that? So it's literally like house exchange. He has a condo in Miami. He traded it for a week for a condo in New York. Just straight up, no money. You pay you pay a fee for the cleaning. He paid like a $200
awesome.
fee for
That's
cleaning.
really cool.
So
that is brilliant.
He used his condo in Miami and he used someone's condo in New York straight up.
That's brilliant.
I might buy a condo in Detroit just to try to do that with other people around the country. That would be awesome.
This guy in Detroit.
I mean, how many people do? I mean, the house sharing concept isn't new, but technology hasn't enabled it in the past in the way that it could today. Clearly, as we saw with Picasso.
Well, I think Picasso is a great example, but even Picasso, I think, is more complicated, right? It's almost the idea that LegalZoom exists, and that enables co-buying or co-living, right? Because you just need to be able to formulate agreements so that everybody's protected, because the mortgage is still 100% liability. So if you buy a house with your friends, all four people are taking 100% of the debt risk. Now, technology can help them manage the relationships in case somebody moves, somebody gets married, somebody blah, blah, blah.
Someone loses the job or whatever.
Those can all be structured. Those can be structured a lot easier and a lot faster with technology platforms, legal services, tech-enabled legal services, but we need to also create a mortgage where you only have to take 25% of the risk if you're in it with 3 other people, instead of cramming the demand into, the box that we have. But at least we have a box. You can buy a house with 4 friends. Nestment is a startup I talk about quite a bit, because they've made it really easy for originators to do these loans. They have leads, they place them with originators, and Fannie and Freddie already accept for unrelated buyers on a loan. So mortgage companies can do it. Nestman enables it. They do a lot of the agreements, and I think you're right. Technology helps, data helps. Also, by the way, lower risk. Imagine the DTI. You have 4 incomes on that house. It's actually way less risk than the one couple with 1 or 2 wage earners who used every last penny to buy the house. So it's even better for investors.
Yeah. How big are these like operational problems of like the insurance and things like that? I'm no expert there, but Lou chiming in from that background a little bit. Do you think that's a significant thing, Potter?
What's that? That the lender's insurance company,
just like that. It's like not how things are underwritten, right? Like that. It's like their insurance is for you to live there, not for you to run a.
For the Kindred model.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's almost the same as okay, I'm gonna drive for Uber.
You wouldn't really get in trouble. How would they know? It's like.
Well, and also let's talk about the actual risk, right? So Uber's a great example. If I'm on the road more, is there a higher risk of an accident? Sure. So yeah, I need different insurance, but that shouldn't be a barrier to Uber.
Yeah.
Similarly,
Airbnb automatically does an umbrella policy on your property.
Exactly.
And then the homeowners insurance, on the properties that I have that I Airbnb, they ask you if you do over X number of nights on these short-term rentals, that they bump you into a different, it's far more expensive too. But they bump you into a different homeowners insurance policy. Typically it even can bump you into a commercial policy.
Which I get,
nevertheless, it's there.
If there's money to be made, make the money. But what I would ask insurance companies and lenders, what is this renter going to do that becomes a claim? Even if they punch a hole in the drywall, it's a hole in the drywall. Are these people ruining the roof? Are these people cracking the foundation? No. So what is even maybe a fire? Yeah. They start a fire, they're cooking meth in the kitchen. Okay, that's going to happen 1 out of every 150 million homes. But we have a high net worth individual in Miami going to a high net worth individual in New York. We need insurance for that. What are we doing?
Well, no, but the problem, in the early Airbnb days, people would have these parties, right? They'd rent an Airbnb for the weekend, and that happened probably more often than you think. And that's what prompted them to get the kind of the Airbnb guarantee, if you will, if any damage was up to $1 million or something like that they would cover it.
I'm getting some real time data from my friend that did this Kindred thing that I was mentioning. I just want to show you guys what the actual experience was, because I was curious. So he first of all, he sent me a link to get, if I do it with my apartment, I get 5 extra nights of vacation just for joining from his affiliate link. That's smart.
Did he heart your comment?
You don't use enough hearts, Rick. We need you.
It's a like.
You should be a more supportive.
Yeah.
I mean, I am. I'm from Vermont. I get it. I am supportive, but
try to be more supportive. But he's going to trade out his Miami condo for a vacation in Portugal coming up. People were good. It was going to be $1,400 for them to stay in a terrible hotel, and instead they got to live in a penthouse for a cleaning fee. It was a good gig.
That's amazing. So
more use of stuff like that, I think. Whether
Ryan got an internship in Japan, and he's leaving for Japan in a few weeks. And he was just talking about the idea of buying a condo in Tokyo or something like that, and that would be an exact illustration of what you could do with it, where you put it in this kind of exchange where somebody in Miami's I want to spend a month in Japan, and I'm gonna crash at your condo type thing.
Backup points.
Dude, that's amazing.
That's insane.
Cool.
Yeah, the innovation options. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say nice to see you. Really good talking to you. I gotta jump, guys. This was great.
Yeah, no problem.
the innovative
I learned a
conversation.
lot.
It was nice to have you in one spot with Wi-Fi for a full 30 minutes.
Yeah, Jeremy, this is not.
You told me to get better at it, and I got better at it. I take feedback and I apply it, and that's how I improve.
Well, we'll see you next
I had a
Friday.
few people reach out to me.
We'll see you next Friday.
Today, so I'm
All right.
glad that we kept it simple.
See you guys.
See you later, Jeremy. Brock, what do you got going on? Are you going to any conferences here in the next month or two? Are you going to go to Housing Wire in June?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I'll be at loosely at. I live in New York, so I will be around MBA secondary.
Yep.
Secondary is not exactly relevant to NewsZip, but
Yep.
I'll be going to the events that, like, the tech companies we partner with host and parties, receptions, whatever, things like that. So anyone at secondary should hit me up. I'll be here. And then yeah, I'll be at the gathering the whole time, Sunday to Wednesday or whatever.
Colorado Springs, first weekend of June.
Colorado Springs. That'll be great. That was maybe my favorite event last year.
And anything in between now and then, other than those two, or is that pretty much it?
That's it. Yeah, I had a bunch back to back. Like, when we spoke at the main mortgage conference.
Yeah.
The next day, I spoke at the DC area Potomac Credit Union Real Estate Network. That was fun. It's like a basically closed event. 3 or 4 sponsors / partners were invited. Otherwise, it was like 25 credit unions doing credit union, things, like closed room type conversations. So that was a cool thing to be a part of. I'm still getting a crash course in how their models work coming from the IMB world. But yeah, no, nothing the last week or so, nothing in the next week or so. What about you?
No, the same too. There's actually a third that I'm going to down in South Carolina, and down in it's a kind of it's a title property, land and title property type conference down in Charlotte, or rather down in Charleston, South Carolina. But other than that, there's nothing really. There's a sales conference at the end of June, but then it's just kind of.
Yeah, I'm more getting out to like some site visits to see our partners. I'm going to Indiana next week to see one of our big partners, Royal United, that's based out there in Indianapolis.
Oh, great! Good for you.
I'll be out there for 2 days next week. Going to Charlotte a couple times coming up.
Brock went to like one of the best business schools in the country called Bowdoin in Maine, and University of Georgia has a great business school too.
Yeah. That's actually a business school. Bowdoin's just like a liberal arts, but
you guys are known for econ and business.
Yeah. People go into business, but it's not like we didn't have like accounting. I don't have any hard skills.
Oh, were you just a liberal arts major, or were you an econ?
I was an econ major, but they didn't have like practical business classes. I'm kind of jealous of people that actually got that in college. Had to learn it on the fly.
Yeah, but you had a great start working for that private equity firm or that incubator of sorts right out of college, which is kind of the way to go. Like that would be like. Yeah. Not to say I have any control over this, but if I were to control what he did out of college, would be to work for an investment bank. Like an investment bank or no, because ultimately it's your choice, right? But but like an investment bank or like a private equity firm or something like that, because getting in the deal making flow is not only where you make a lot of money, but you also have a lot of impact, the opportunity to have a real impact on business and like
you get to see a lot, you get to meet a lot of like founders and people trying to build things. It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was really because when Brock went to Rocket. It's kind of cool to be part of like the number one lender in the world,
when you leave, you see them fall down because of you.
Exactly. So now he has the bragging right.
Only Rick's ever made that claim. If the media team's going to reach out,
I'm happy to make that. I have data to prove it. I know when you left. And I've seen them lose their market position since.
Lines up pretty well. I think the stock was like 20 then. It's like 10 now. Yeah.
Exactly. But anyways, no, that's good, man. I'm looking forward to. I love seeing what you're doing, and I'd love to. We got to get some more.
Yeah, let me know your plans for both those conferences, particularly when you're in New York. We can set up.
Bro, I'll be there. I'm not going to stay at the Hyatt or whatever it is, because
I'm going to stay in my apartment. So
the Marriott Marquis was like $700 a night or something like that. And I was like, so I'm staying like right around the corner.
Sounds like you should do a Kindred.
But Yeah, no
This
kidding.
was cool.
But yeah, I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for the impromptu,
Yeah.
visit from a new guest with
Love
Ryan.
it. Have to have him come back on. And I don't know, maybe in a year or something when he's got new stories, new questions. Yeah.
Well, I was talking to him earlier because I don't know if y'all ever get into the international landscape, but I'm working for a real estate firm over in Japan this summer. So
cool.
like I'll have at least somewhat.
We'll have to have you come on and talk about that. My company's a real estate company, so we work all 50 states in the U.S. and we have some partners that help like expats overseas invest in American real estate. But no, I don't know anything about how actual like real estate transactions themselves work in other countries. Like there's all these companies that have tried to be like the #1 UK real estate company, for example, tried to come over to the US and bring their model maybe in 2015 or 2016. They got absolutely hammered. It was just like a whole different world. And the US companies have tried to do the opposite and same. So I have no idea how the Japan model works. You'll have to
I got y'all. I got you 100%. I got to add something a little bit more intuitive behind this. So
I wanted to point this article to you that went out yesterday at Housing Wire. I'm not sure if you saw it, just about the inventory that's expanding in the Florida markets. We talked about this last week's show, but this illustrates like perfectly just not just the amount of inventory year over year, but also the percentage of price decreases on homes that went on the market and how much they decreased from what they actually sold for. And it's pretty massive. I mean, when you look at Tampa Metro and the percentage of price decreases, and you're looking at 42%, 44%, this is massive.
Yeah. That's
Miami Metro.
I guess that's like some of the peak areas for like insurance rates skyrocketing, right? That's
right.
That's got to be part of it.
That's right.
But I don't know. Some of these areas kind of just got overbuilt too, right? Like I know most of my company is based in Austin, Texas. It's a totally thriving market in every way, but they overbuilt so much that home prices are kind of flat to down. They went up so much for a while, then they overbuilt, and then so it's. I mean, I'm not an expert on Austin, but that's what I've seen from the outside, and I think there's a few markets in Arizona like that, a few markets in Florida like that, but overall, I mean, all those economies are still super healthy. Still, like you said at the top, those are still where people are moving the most to Sun Belt areas.
Well, good. Well, look forward to seeing you soon, and hit me up before the secondary conference, and we'll hit some parties together and network.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. It's a wrap for Real Fridays.
appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
Seeing you.